What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. This is season 8, episode 13. Guys, I was so bummed that this wasn't episode 12 because this is the 12th
We're so
DJ
close.
record. So close. I was like, man, that could have lined up perfectly, but it didn't. But that's okay. I am joined today by Ethan and Chris from the Grunge Bible, which, if you're a fan of this channel, you've seen them on here before. You probably follow them on Instagram because I talk about them on this channel, and I talk about Pearl Jam all the friggin' time. So we're going to talk more about Pearl Jam today. Go figure.
Surprise.
Oh, yeah.
All about Dark Matter. So I thought what we could do, guys, is I'm very curious. I'm sure you guys have talked about this a lot this week. Or over the weekend. But and I know that you guys just did an episode on your channel talking about this record. But I'm like mostly curious about your thoughts. We can kind of go back and forth and pass the baton on this, but being that I am of an older aged man who lived through this era, I have a lot to say about it, but I'm more curious about what you guys think as of coming into this music, very recently in the past, 5 or 10 years, whatever it was.
It's funny you say that because I'm coming on here actually really interested to hear what you have to say. I'm not joking. I mean, it's like we have our opinions, and I think we let these older bands get away with a lot more than the people that were there or grew up with it. Just the same way that when I'm listening to bands that I listened to in high school and about 10 years older and they're making a few changes, I find myself reacting similar. I was like, oh, this isn't the old stuff. Like, this is when I went to all the shows back in, Stone Pony and stuff and making comparisons. So I was also interested to hear how, what your thoughts are. So,
I have to say, to jump in here, I think the one common thread, like whether you're our age, your age, older, anywhere in between, like I think there's a common thread here for a lot of Pearl Jam fans right now, that it feels really good to have something from the band to be super excited about, and something that's super invigorating. This one, I was anticipating this one for quite a while, and I hadn't really connected with Gigaton a whole lot. They came out in COVID, and like I was not doing well personally, so I didn't really spend much time with it. And now anytime I listen to it, I was like, oh, like remember when like life was horrible back then? So like that's not a great one for me. And when they announced, I think for a couple of years it had been like, oh yeah, we're working on an album, and different interviews Stone or Jeff or Matt would talk about it. And then when they announced it, I was really, really excited. And the more you hear about it, that like it's going to be heavier, and Ed saying in January that it's like their best work to date, and they're so proud of it. Like I got so excited, and I was nervous that it wasn't going to be as fulfilling as the excitement levels that I had before it. But this really delivered for me. Not having the long-term experience with the band as you do, or a lot of fans, like my perspective is obviously a little bit different, but knowing their catalog well and going back and being a fan, like for me, I connect with this as deeply as I have anything since I think they put out the Avocado album in 2006. And I think they played to their strength so well on this album. And I just think it's the perfect record, I think, for the time and place where they are, and where a lot of their fans are too.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, and if I can just jump to the end point, I mean, in my opinion, and this is only my little opinion, I'm just a little guy living in Maryland, but Yield is my favorite record in the catalog. It always will be. I have it tattooed on my arm. I think I would put this record right underneath of that.
Yeah.
In my top, and probably in my top 3, if not my top 5, if I get real with myself about certain things. But I think that this record transcended my expectations, because I mean, I've loved this band so much my whole life that I feel like I would buy anything that they put out just because I want to support them, and I love what they're doing, and I always will. And they're the reason I'm a musician, period. Right. But there was something special about this record. And Ethan, I was talking to Chris about this before you came on, but I went to the movie theater viewing of it last Tuesday with my good friend, John. And we grew up loving this band together. And the first time through was in darkness. And I was telling Chris, I really tried to be present with myself. I was like, do not put your musician head on. Just go back to being a 6th grader or 1991 and experiencing 10 for the first time, how that felt. Like, don't have any preconceived notions about what Matt's groove should be, or oh, Stone's doing this cool thing. Just like listen to the songs.
Yep.
And I'm so glad I did that. Because the second time through, I totally got musician nerdy about it and started analyzing everything. But I'm so glad I did that, because I was able to just like be a music fan for the moment. And man, it felt like the first time I saw them, like I remember going to see them for the first time at Merriweather Post Pavilion. And my friend Dan and I were 16, and we drove ourselves an hour away at this venue. I can't believe our parents let us do that.
Probably like one of the first big like trips that you had as somebody behind the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we drove down, and it was like no code era.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at some point, I don't know if I told you guys this story, but at some point we were in the lawn, and at some point everybody just ran down into the pavilion. And we like looked at each other, and like, we're such rule followers,
right?
Going to like Catholic high school at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, are we allowed to do that? Can we do that? And we were like, we probably shouldn't. So we stayed on the lawn like a bunch of noobs. But I had that feeling of, this is why I love this band, because they continue to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, man, like, as far as rock and roll goes, I mean, they can keep doing this as long as they want to, and I'm sure it'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, barring Eddie's voice, however that ages, but still, I think he wrote for his voice on this record. That's the other thing I wanted to say. He really wrote for his range.
Mm-hmm. What was the movie theater experience like?
It was cool. So that
were there motion pictures, like was there pictures and video with it?
Yeah, it was. What's really cool too. So like the visualizers were up, but they also had like karaoke style like lyrics. And some of these tunes, including Dark Matter, I liked even more when I really knew what the lyrics were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that the first couple of listens through, I didn't want to kind of break the songs down into like, what is that musician doing, or what is that lyric, and like what is the message behind this. But like in the fourth and fifth and so on listens through, I've started to get into that, because I really dig the lyrical content of songs, and that's a huge point of connection for me. And it's kind of transforming my relationship with it so far. And it's just so exciting to kind of be at the epicenter of that, and at the beginning, and like know the road that you're about to set forth on. It's just a really cool feeling.
Yeah. What was your first experience, like the first listen through, Ethan? Like, what was the first reaction to, just to talk about like Scared of Fear? Like, what was your first, both of you, like, what was your first reaction?
Yeah. My first reaction. So I put it on, it was in the morning on Friday, I think. And I just let it roll. And, I felt, I do like Scared of Fear. I think it's grown on me a little bit. At first I was like, I heard that the drums are going to be really heavy, and I'm a drummer too. So I was like, I'm always keyed into it. And it was, maybe the way they recorded it, I couldn't get past it for a second. But then as the record went on, and I agree with you, I think they tailored a lot of the songs to Eddie's voice. And then I realized that, they embraced, say, where they are in their career. And they weren't trying to do something that, it felt like they were making it for themselves and where they were at. And I had a lot of appreciation for that. Like I said, it sounds, say, like U2, and it's very like big band type of stuff. And the jams, they always finish really strong. And it was kind of a lot of the stuff that I like from the guys. And Wreckage, I think Wreckage is probably my favorite. It has just like Tom Petty vibe that I really enjoy. And it just fits Eddie's voice a ton. Like he didn't have to try and keep up like some of the other songs that I thought maybe he was, he's definitely getting a little bit older in his age, but still delivered a great set. And we also talked a lot how it'll be really fun to see this live and see them play it all out. I think it'll be awesome. I mean, everything's better live. So
yeah. How about you, Chris? What was like the first listen? What was your like immediate reaction?
So I was up in the vicinity of midnight Thursday night into Friday, but I was exhausted, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make it through, and I wasn't awake enough to do it. So like the responsible human, I was like, I'll put this away, and then when morning comes, I have something to look forward to with my coffee. And then like I woke up at like 5 a.m. to get a drink of water or something, and it wasn't time to get up. I was like, no, like you're gonna wait. So then I waited, and like I work from home, so I was just, it was great that I was able to work a little bit, but just, let this album play through. And yeah, even just from the beginning with Scared of Fear and that kind of intro into the first guitar riff, like as soon as that first guitar riff started to hit, it kind of awoke once again, like that feeling that I had the first time I connected with this band. And it got me really excited. Like I was just sitting at my desk, like on my laptop, but I was like, wanted to like jump out of my seat all alone in my apartment. And as you went through, I mean, the first 4 tracks, 2 of them had been released as singles prior to the album release. So I was excited to kind of work my way through Wreckage and Dark Matter and get into the the unknown element of the album, of most of the music that I hadn't heard before, with the exception of Running. And boy, this record really hit its stride for me, around Won't Tell and Upper Hand. And Waiting for Stevie was like, it's my favorite song on the album. And like when that hit, like it felt like I was 19 and falling in love with this band again. And like the emotions that I felt at that time just came like right back to me. And it's something that's interesting, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, because so much of your day-to-day life is centered around music, and if it's not centered around it, it's present, right? And you've consumed a lot of music, you've played tons of music, and the more you get down a road and the more experienced you are, the less points in time you have where you have that feeling, right? And running the page with Ethan, like I think it's fewer and far in between that we have those moments where something really hits us and is so inspiring and makes you feel like you're a teenager again, and you're first falling in love with music. And I had that moment with this record, which is something that I haven't felt in a while. So it was a great gift to me, and it's just continuing to build from there.
Yeah, you can only be floored by Lollapalooza and the Unplugged. So many.
Yeah, exactly.
Only have the first run a few for your first time. So
yeah. Well, it's funny too, because it's I mean, for as long as the span of their career has been, to think that they only have 12 albums out is also very interesting to me. And I would agree with you, Chris. Like Gigaton didn't really hit me like the way some other records have, like Yield or dude. I love Binaural. Binaural is another one of my favorite records.
Absolutely.
And I think that Matt's drumming on this album is very reminiscent of the visceral nature of his drumming on Binaural.
Yeah.
And I would go as far as to say, like, he's never sounded better, in my opinion.
I would agree with that a lot. I think with Matt, there's a large section of Pearl Jam fans, or maybe not a large one, but a vocal one, that obviously they love Dave Abruzzese, and they're like, oh, they need to get him back in the band. And Matt is so good in Soundgarden, but like I don't know what his issue is with Pearl Jam. I mean, I think this record should put any holdouts to bed. I mean, I agree. We had this discussion yesterday when we recorded our podcast about this, Ethan and I, and to highlight, I think the 2 guys on this record that like are, in my opinion, the best they've ever been would be Matt and Mike. I mean, they steal the show on so many of these tracks, and Matt was just so intense and just present on all of these tracks. Like you could hear his impact every second of this record.
Yeah. Ethan, did you like how his drums were recorded? I know you said it was like, at first you're like, ugh. And I've heard a couple people say that, and I'm like, man, I don't hear that at all. Like, I really like, because I'm a drummer too, and I love the way his snare sounds on this record. It's got like this fat, beefy compression with it. And that's probably Andrew Watt, like the more modern kind of drum sound. But what do you like? How do you feel about it now after listening to it a few times?
It's still kind of growing on me, I guess. I like, I don't want to say I like echoey stuff and a little bit more. I mean, the toms and the deeper sounds are really, say, precise. And I don't know, it's good. It's really tight. I don't know exactly what it's like. Tough because you just hear it the way you hear it. It's like you don't hear any other mixes. So no, I don't know. I think it's really solid. I think it's gonna be really good live. Like I said, he's always super tight, playing on the stage and whatnot. And I don't know. I think maybe I was just being too critical the first few times. I probably listened to it around 4 times now, the full album. I don't know how many times you guys are up to. Probably like double that.
I don't even want to tell you. I mean,
yeah, I'm embarrassed to say.
But yeah,
no, I mean, what do you think that people were? I don't even really understand. I don't even really know what I was looking for or expecting. And maybe that's just, it just didn't, for some reason, it didn't connect to what I was expecting. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, no, that's normal. I think that's fair. And I think that's something that their experience is going to be subjective of the record, right? And
Yeah.
I think also it's funny that you say Matt and Mike, Chris, because I think the VIPs of this record are Jeff and Matt.
Yeah.
Jeff's playing on this whole record. I will go down. I'll be in my casket, and I'm going to have like a tape recorder on my chest that's looping saying Jeff Ament is the bass player and the best bass player in rock and roll, period. Jeff Ament is the best player in rock and roll, period. Because like he's so underrated.
Yes.
And when we went to the movie theater to watch it, now it was done in Dolby Atmos. So it literally felt like I was surrounded, like I was in a sphere of music, like that was just around me, encompassing me, like a womb of melody and harmony. And when I first heard that guitar come in on Scared of Fear, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because the way that it was recorded, it was just crispy but warm. So there was no brittleness to it. For me, it felt like this chewy. I'm a huge fuzz guy, and I love like chewy Velcro-y sounds. And like I love Blake Mills and the way he records records, and it had that vibe to it where it just felt very palpable, like I could chew it. And then when you get into like React, Respond, you know, like there at the end there's that solo where it's like there's like this tremolo picking thing happening. What was cool about it in that theater is it went around the whole friggin' room. So it disappeared for a second. It came across like this.
Yeah, I need this. I need this experience. I'm loving hearing it.
It came from right to left, and then it disappeared in a way, like almost like a Doppler effect. And I felt like it went behind, but I couldn't hear it as well. And then it came back forward in the middle.
That's cool.
And I was like, I mean, that I'm not going to be able to experience that anywhere else but right here, right now.
No.
Yeah.
Like Sammy Hagar.
That's awesome. I saw Dune 2 in IMAX, and it was like very, like, you just felt so sucked into the movie. And it's like, that's why you go and experience, that's why you go to live shows, because there's certain things that you can't get from listening to it in your car with the windows down and stuff. And it'll always sound a little bit different in every different room that you listen to it. So that's a special experience. I'm pretty jealous.
It was cool, man. I mean, it was definitely, and don't get me wrong. I mean, my first listen through, there was times I was like about some stuff.
Right.
And then when I listened to it again, the second time I was like, oh, now I get it. You know, like now I understand the context of this.
Right. That was
and
big for me with some of the singles, just kind of like figuring out like what the album sequencing is going to be like. And, you know, not to judge Dark Matter or Wreckage or Running, you know, on their own, but like see where they fit in the album and just how the whole thing is sequenced. That was a big thing for me, and kind of like grew my affection towards some of the singles that I may not have like gotten right away, just to like see where they are in the record.
Yeah, and I think that is also fair. And then when you're a fan of a band, you're gonna have to like step back and like view it from different angles until you get it. Like, but what's weird is like when Dark Matter came out, I instantly loved that.
Yeah,
just because of the energy that I was getting, and I was like, this feels like this could have been on Versus, or this could have been on Binaural, in particular. A lot of this I feel like feels like binaural-ish. It's like dark and brooding.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But like there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of like optimistic and, you know, sad hope sometimes. Like, you know what I mean?
Especially like lyrically, that's one of the biggest fascinations that I have with Eddie and with just their journey. I mean, I had this moment, listening to some of the songs, I think particularly towards the back end. I mean, well, you've got Upper Hand in the middle, and Something Special, like To His Daughters and God a Given Setting Sun. Like, this is the same person, and I said this yesterday on our show, like, this is the same person that in 93 wrote Leash, like Delight in Our Youth, like just like visceral, like teen angst, young 20s angst. And just to see like that process through, I think that's something that so many of the band's fans who were around, to see them and to connect with them in the early 90s, that's just got to be priceless. To like you're as you follow your path in life, the band is following theirs, and you meet up again 30 years later, and you're going through the same things as you were 30 years ago, and it's like you've made it through, and it was such a cool thing for him to share, just different points of wisdom and his outlook now, being in his late 50s.
Yeah. What did you guys think about Something Special the first time you heard it? I'll be completely honest with you, but I want to hear what you have.
Ethan, what were your thoughts originally? Did you have one?
I said the first. It's funny because the first idea that I had was we talked to Chris Cafaro, and he photographed them and did the first Jeremy music video, and I think that he would come on and be like, they should have called this Nothing Special, because he's like a hater at in a lot of ways. But that song the energy that I would describe. You said it was like kind of like sad and brooding a little bit, but I felt a lot of gratitude and kind of like understanding of where they are, and they bring this like kind of like, I don't want to say dad rock, but there's like,
no, they're dads and they play rock music.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, you could tell that they're like so happy that the band is still together. We still get to play. And that's how this song was. Like it sounds a little corny, and then it's like a little bit of a loop, but then you're like, no, wait, this has a nice groove that, the guys are just having fun playing something, probably a little more simple musicianship than some of the other stuff. And they knocked it out of the park. I thought it was good. I liked it.
Yeah. My first thought when I listened to it, I was like, this is the type of song that you would expect to hear on a new album from a band that's been around for 34 years. Like, they're just going to take it easy on this one.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh wait, never mind. Like the song's pretty cute. Like the lyrics are awesome, and they deserve this space on the album. But what were your thoughts originally?
I mean, originally I did not like it at all.
Yeah.
At all. Like, it felt like meandering. It felt like it wasn't harmonically well put together. It felt like the lyrics were kind of like the phrasing was rushing here and there to like kind of keep up with the like juxtaposition of the harmony of the chord structure. It felt like a little jarring to me, because it felt like it came out of nowhere on a record that I thought was just balls to the wall, just beautiful. Because there was all these elements of Pink Floyd and old school Pearl Jam, and like just like really hip shit for the first 3/4 of the record, and then that comes in.
Yeah. I was confused with where, like you said, like where it is in the record, because it's like you had Waiting for Stevie, and then they had that outro, like the Be Mighty, Be Humble thing, and then they don't give you a chance to rest, and they go into Running, which just like riffs your face off. And then to go from Running into Something Special, I was like, oh, like this is not where I was expecting this to go right now.
Not at all. But I will say, since I've listened to the record tens of times now, I it's growing on me a lot. And as a dad of a daughter, like I get it. I 100% get it. And as a dude who's going to turn 45 in June, dude, mortality is a real thing. And for Eddie, he's 10 plus years older than me, and he's got grown kids. It's probably really hitting home for him. And I was like, I get it. And at the time, I think I was like, man, he should have put this out on like National Daughters Day.
Yeah.
Or something, not on this record. I like the song. I just don't want it on this record. But now I'm like, I get it, and, I've had conversations with people like, yeah, this is a very divisive song in the community.
Oh yeah.
Right now. But I mean, I don't hate it or anything. And at first I did not like it. And my buddy and I were talking about it a lot because we both didn't, and we didn't understand it. But I think that's the thing, is like the rest of the record, I didn't really have to understand. It just immediately made me happy.
Yes.
And then this one, it was funny. My buddy John was saying, what was weird about it too is the first time we heard it for the first listen through, it was like eating sushi and then you don't have the ginger between the next piece of sushi kind of thing. Because then the next song, I couldn't be in it because I was so jarred by that song.
Yeah.
Feeling out of place. Yeah. So it was that mostly for us, but I think I was on the Peloton riding the other day, and I did like a different ride so I could listen to it instead of listening to their music. And I was like, okay, all right. And that kind of hit when I was doing my cool down after whatever 35 minutes or something. And I was like, I understand now, why he did it and why it's there. But sometimes things have to be a gift song. Sometimes you have to like get your stuff off your chest.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like they've certainly earned the right to do that. And it's just kind of I feel like without this, it wouldn't be as holistic of a snapshot as to, where the band is at these days, and I think, the time and place for it works, despite my initial misgivings of it as well.
Yeah. And I think probably a lot of us had the same reaction, but then when you love the band as much as you love this band, you're like, okay, buddy. Like,
yeah.
mulligan.
They could get away with a lot. And like, they didn't need to use any mulligans on this one for me, really. But if they needed it, they've certainly earned it over the 34 years of music with them.
For sure.
I mean, yeah. And with albums, it's never going to be, I guess there's a few albums that are perfect. Every song does it for you. And there's enough variety. And so like when a band has a song that is widely different than the rest of the album, like I appreciate that too. And that, it just, you have to suit up a little differently for the listen. And so I think, with that in mind, I think I appreciated it and gave him more grace. And, I'd rather kind of say, get upset about stuff that sounds the same and be like, we already did this. So it was off the beaten path of everything. And it was, unique.
Yeah, totally. I think too, man, like going through, like I wrote a bunch of notes about each song today and just like cliff notes about this stuff. I feel like even like React Respond, like that chorus had to grow on me a little bit.
I'm still working on the chorus for that.
Yeah, it's odd, but like harmonically, like there's this really cool tritone thing that happens in it that is very odd to write like a vocal melody over. Like it's like, so like what they're doing, but that verse is so freaking good. Like, like when that's what I was talking about. Jeff is like the first two songs, his bass sound is so dope.
Oh
like,
yeah, he's the MVP of this track for me for sure, without a doubt.
So good, dude, so good. But like that had Versus kind of era vibes to me, like that.
Go a little bit, something like that.
Mm.
And I think, I mean, bass players inherently seem to be overlooked, especially I think by a lot of casual listeners, because you're not really keeping an eye out for it. So like I loved that, early on in this record, it's like Jeff had like his place where he could shine and like be noticeable by everybody. And I think that was really cool. And I think every single guy in the band has their place and has their time, in the spotlight on this album, which was really cool. And it seems like, throughout Pearl Jam's career, it's kind of ebbed and flowed with how collaborative different records may be or may not be. And this one seemed to be so collaborative and just so intentional with all of the choices that they made. And it's just such a thorough effort.
Yeah.
There's energy behind every piece in the band for each of these songs that offers a lot to bring in each song together fully. And this one, it's grown on me the last few times I've listened to, and kind of my first reaction was like, Ed's hanging on for dear life, go singing, keeping up in the chorus and stuff. But then I'm listening to it again, and I like the, it's like a longing, and it's a very desperation type of singing that he does that really fits like React Respond and kind of being in moments. And I don't know that I need to check the lyrics exactly what is all is talking about, what they're talking about here, but I don't know, it works.
He has a lot of turn of phrase cool stuff. Like he has a lot of playing with language on this record, which is kind of different than stuff that he's done in the past. And it seems like to me, when I was like reading the lyrics on the screen and paying attention, I was like, oh, okay. Like, you can be loved by everyone and still not feel love. Like, I was like, damn. Like, it's just like stuff like that, where he's just flipping phrases and figuring out creative ways to make things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. he was so good at that on this album, and you know, lyrically, and just kind of with a lot of that in mind. Like, I'm drawn to the last track, Setting Sun, where he just kind of uses that, you know, what side of the sun are you on type thing. You know, it could be, you know, the setting of the sun, or it could be the dawn of a new day. And just, you know, and even with the song like Upper Hand, like, I feel like so much of his early career writing was about, you know, his fame, and like struggling to like find his place, you know, amongst all of that, and how to control like who you are in the world. And then a song like Upper Hand, like, after all these years admitting, you know, never had the upper hand. And it seemed like he was able to revisit a lot of themes, and kind of like check back in, and you know, provide a status report on kind of how he's handled everything over the years.
That's a great perspective, man. That's true. It's like, and you know, again, like growing with every record, growth,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what you hope for, right, out of your favorite
Absolutely.
bands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have nothing negative to say about that. Like, it seems like they're always trying to like do something different, or do something that's like fresh but still them.
Yeah, and that's the best part about this band. I mean, it goes back to Vitalogy, but especially No Code. You know, as I understand at the time, everybody was like, "What is this?" You know, the 10, like, get back to 10, get back to verses. And there's still people that say that, but like, you want to be challenged as a listener, right? And you want, as a musician, I imagine, you want to continue to challenge yourself, and to create in new ways, and to evolve, and to grow. And it would just be stale, and it would be, in my opinion, a band as big as Pearl Jam, it would be just patronizing if they just tried to make 10 part 11 right now, you know.
Right.
You know, it's just that process. And you know, you work with different producers, and you try different writing styles, and you draw from new experiences that you have, you know, in your memory bank at 58 that you didn't have when you were 26. And it's just such a, you know, none of life happens in a vacuum, and there's no like one point to pinpoint. And this is just it's evidence of that. It's just so holistic, their journey. And it's just so cool having a front row seat to it, you know, through their music.
There's more wisdom in
Totally.
all of them now, you know,
Yeah.
whether that be musically or whether that be life lived. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gonna spill into the experience that we have when we listen to and we consume what the emotions are that they're letting out on the page or on the tape.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, you know, if you look at a song like Wreckage, like, I agree with you, Ethan. I think that I thought when I heard it in the movie theater, I was like, why didn't they? This should have been the first single.
Yeah.
Easily, this should have been the first single. I mean,
Mhm.
my wife hates Pearl Jam. Hates Pearl Jam. And I was like, I think you would like this. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Tom Petty kind of vibe. And I'm like, yeah, like, this is not the Pearl Jam that, you know, when I'm like driving around and like Habit comes on. Like,
Right. This isn't Spin the Black Circle.
no, this isn't Blood. This isn't, you know, these songs are like, this is like deep, heavy music.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know what you're saying about like the live show, that song's going to be killing live. But there's several songs on this record that are so anthemic at the end.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me, one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs is Lightning Bolt, because the end of that song, and to see it live. And I think that there's 3 or 4 songs on this record that are going to be that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be hard to top. I mean, I don't care. I know people were like, bleh, when they said they were going to do shorter sets and play a lot of new music. I'm like, all right, bring it on, dude, because this record kicks ass. And I'll listen to every single one of these live.
Yeah, I would rather have them play a little bit shorter and play for more years than burn themselves out. And I just think, I mean, as Pearl Jam fans, we have been spoiled for years with the length of their sets, and for a while the frequency with which they toured. So it's just one of those things, like, they need to be good friends to themselves, like for their own sake to play, and for ours to be able to go to the shows. But I had that same thought, you know, listening to this record. Like, I couldn't help but get excited, you know, waiting for like the first videos of the tour to pop out, and, you know, see how this happens. And there are a lot of anthemic moments of this that I was like, this one's going to feel really good in a crowd. You know, and it's just kind of like, there are different moments that I'm like, oh, like, this feels like, you know, in the way that the crowd gets together on Elderly Woman, like, there's going to be points in this record where hopefully people get together, you know, and just have those moments.
Are you guys going to any shows? this fall?
We don't have tickets yet. It would be cool to go. Yeah, we've seen them twice together, in both. I've never seen them without Ethan, and we haven't seen them since the 2018 tour, so it's been a while.
All right, so let's talk after we go off air. That's all I'll say. Let's talk.
Amazing.
All right, so so Dark Matter. So here's the thing, dude. When I first heard that song, there is, I think it's Mike. I think I'm like trying to think of when I was in the theater, because like Stone's usually on the right, Mike's usually on the left in the middle. But there is a guitar that's doing that sputter thing. You can hear that. So there is there's a pedal that I have that does that. So tremolo pedals, usually if you have like a Boss tremolo even can do it, but if you crank the rate, you can get it to do that thing. So instead of going bub, 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 you know, like when you turn it up, but that sounds like a ring modulator. So there's like Moog makes this pedal that'll do that, because that's right on the brink of it turning into a ring modulator, which sounds like a robot. But what's cool about it is I've never heard them experiment with like, well, that's not true. I mean, Stone's done stuff in the past, but like the textural stuff, like there's texture parts. There's a lot of textural guitar stuff on this record.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like synthy vibe stuff that's like just buried in the bed of the music enough that it like carries things a little bit.
Yeah.
That you have to pay attention to like be like, oh, you know, there's little things. It's like, you know, if you keep listening to it, you're like, oh, I didn't hear that shit the first time.
Yeah, and like as music fans, and especially for you with having, you know, the musician's ear that you have and all of your experiences. I mean, it's like you have a field day with this album, you know, picking it apart, and it's like you hear something, it's like, oh, like why did they make that choice, and like how did they achieve that, and like in the way it interacts with the rest of the parts of that particular song. Like it's so fun to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah. And the whole like beginning of Upper Hand. Oh man, like, are you guys Pink Floyd fans?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Did you get that vibe too immediately? Like Shine On You Crazy Diamond type vibe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great. Yeah, that now that you say that is a great comparison.
Yeah. There's a lot of space.
I'm a sucker for when bands include parts like that, especially on song intros. I mean, even you know, I loved, you know, Scared of Fear before the initial guitar riff kicked in. Like I just love when bands include different things like that. But yeah, Upper Hand, totally Floydy at the beginning for sure.
And even the verse progression, the harmonic progression, like the chord progression in there, that thing screams Pink Floyd, like with the half step major chord changes and things that are going on. I'm just like, oh man. And that's cool about this record, right? It's like they're showing some influences, which yes, they did that on No Code because Neil Young was like in their pocket.
Right.
But like Tom Petty vibes, like Pink Floyd vibes, The Cult, waiting for Stevie, that feels like a Cult tune.
Oh yeah. It seems like he really leaned into a lot of those influences that he had, because even just with like some of his lyricism, like I can't help but notice it seems like he's kind of like in the tradition of a lot of like the great American songwriters. Like there's parts of this record that kind of feel Springsteen-y to me. And I just love the fact that he's leaned into a lot of that, you know, just throughout it. But speaking of like Upper Hand, like I said at the beginning, like once you got through like Wreckage and Dark Matter, like I love that sonically the middle of this record kind of opens up, and it's like the middle tracks were just reserved for like the big songs. And like, you know, Won't Tell, Upper Hand, and Waiting for Stevie are like, you know, those are some big songs.
I was gonna say the way Upper Hand ends, like the last like minute, is just, I mean, that is so big and so beautiful, and it really is going to be something that I don't know if they're going to have. And have they done a movie release like you saw? Have they done that before? Or is this the first time?
I think this is like the first time they've done that.
Yeah,
so
I'm wondering. Yeah, so I'm wondering when, like, you know, and you talk about all the texture and stuff. Like everything is done with a purpose, especially with bands that have been doing it for so long, and they want to do things a little differently and maybe more intentional. And like I would like to see just the way that U2 puts on shows and they have these big 100, you know, or they people that are at the Sphere.
Get him in the Sphere.
Imagine Pearl Jam at the
Dude.
Sphere
Oh,
playing.
trust me, Ethan. I have, and my buddy and I, I'll sell any part of my body to go to see them there.
Like, I mean, it really would be like you put pictures to this, and then you know, it's going to be decided by them, or I mean, or people within the band, but they're going to check off on it, and it's going to. I don't know. I don't really know what they could bring to, like, emotions they could bring out of me by putting like just vast grandeur in the back, or, you know, people. I don't know. But I have so much imagination with these songs in spaces like that, and I love it. And I really think they're moving towards that kind of like an older, like you said, Neil Young, Springsteen, you know, U2. I'm hoping that they do more of this stuff and make, you know, less shows but bigger kind of production. And I know maybe people won't like that as much, a little bit more produced, but at the same time, like, I mean, just the entertainment value of it's going to be a different experience. And I think they could move into that space pretty well.
Can you imagine seeing them there and they play Do the Evolution and they have all that anime stuff going on around that? That would be nuts, dude.
That would be unbelievable.
So freaking cool.
It feels like with this album, they leaned into a lot of those supporting artistic elements. Like even just throughout the album release, they had some of those like interactive, like geo filter things, and like where if you like pointed your camera at the sun, like you got different things and whatnot. And you know, I feel like they were able to create a lot of different avenues through which the fans could connect it or have different experiences, which I thought was really cool. I mean, even with certainly like the theater run that they had the Tuesday prior to the release, and I think it was the prior weekend at different record stores across, I think, North America and maybe some in Europe, where you could go and listen to it. I feel like they just really know how to, you know, open up ways for fans to connect with their music, and they don't miss with that.
And this is cheesy to say this, but I appreciate it about Stone is like how like earth conscious he is about carbon footprint and how they do things in a you know, effective way to like lessen that stuff with like vinyl, like the vinyl they produced and all that stuff. I think that's cool, man. I mean, I know that people give them a hard time for being so, I mean, just like earth conscious and like socially conscious and stuff. But I'm like, if they're not, who's gonna be? Like, like, you know what I mean? It's like we have to like do things to take care of each other and take care of our home, which is planet Earth. And like I don't hear a lot of other bands talking about things like that and, you know, actually giving a shit about
like exactly. And the thing with Pearl Jam for me, a lot of times, like, you know, if we post like certain quotes or you know, even if Pearl Jam posts certain things on their page, people will always comment like, oh, like you know, why are you doing this? And it's like they've been doing this for their whole careers, you know, and I think that's like a large tenet that you get from this band. It's like, you know, take care of people around you and take care of, you know, your environment and everything. And I feel like that even translates to the shows. Like the shows, like I've only been to 2 of them, but like just feels like everybody's there to like support one another, and it's very cathartic.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. And even speaking of U2, I mean, did you feel like when you listened to Won't Tell, did that feel like old school U2 to you? Because it did to me.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny, today's actually Earth Day that we're recording too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a happy Earth Day. So
this is perfect.
It is the perfect time to be recording this. So
yeah,
definitely some. I got a lot of U2 throughout this album. Like Waiting for Stevie, I felt like it had a lot of like, I don't know. Do you guys listen to Mute Math at all? You know,
only a little bit. Yeah, but I have. Yeah,
but they have a lot of. They had a lot of sound, like even like OK Go, which is like, you know, not that they're not. Neither of those bands are that old, but yeah, I saw it across the entire album, and I really enjoy that. I think that's Eddie Vedder's sweet spot, and like I said, I think they're tailoring a lot, and they should. They're just tailoring to what like they're strong at this point in their career, and that's going to be the music kind of shining through, and Ed's lyrics, and yeah, I'm just going to keep putting out stuff that that they like to play, you know, and like to sing.
Yeah. It's really fun to have watched this whole ride too, because it's been like peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah.
so many, like, I mean, on the way up, man, it was a rocket ship. And then like what you mentioned earlier with No Code, Chris, is like it just dropped off. Like they lost a ton of fans. And at the time, I mean, I was like, why are you guys like bailing on this band? Like, and a lot of that could have been people who are watching MTV and weren't like true fans and
For
whatever.
sure.
So bye-bye, you know what I mean? But like missed so much great music after that.
Yeah.
So much great music. And it continues to now, 2024. You know, we're talking about so long ago.
Yeah.
18 years ago or whatever. It's like, dude, like you kind of alienated yourself from a great piece of musical rock history.
Yeah, you missed out. They missed out on a lot, and I feel like even when we were first getting into the band, and I suppose that would have been like 2014, 2015, like right after Lightning Bolt had come out, like I felt like a lot of the fans just completely wrote off anything that they did after, after Yield. And I feel like the first two albums that they put out in the early 2000s, Binaural and Riot Act, there's like, oh, like whatever, this isn't for me and whatnot. But you missed out on a lot, and it's just kind of, I think, like every subsequent Pearl Jam album to understand it and to connect with it in the deepest way, like you kind of have to like know the journey a little bit and you know the different steps along the way. And I can only imagine how fun that's been as somebody who's been there since 10, to just follow that, as you move throughout your life and everything, and it's like the band is still there.
Yeah. And there's like history has stamped it now. It's like forever. Like if you listen to Bush Leaguer, you know what was going on in the world at that time. You know what I mean? Like Eddie was going to talk about it. And and like there's stuff like that tune, it's weird. I think musically it's really friggin' hip. Like it's really hip. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in all these records. Like I have a gig this weekend and I haven't played a solo acoustic gig in 4 years since COVID. I haven't played a solo acoustic gig. Just been playing with my band.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I want to get back to doing some of that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to like look and see how I can make In Hiding like different and how I can do that.
I love
like,
that.
As like a solo acoustic piece where it can be, I can mellow it out. I can mold it and shape it. And I love taking covers and like making them my own. But like there's a ton of songs I could do that with in the Pearl Jam catalog post, Vitology.
Yeah.
Easily, because there's so many good songs, and it's just like this is no different. That's the thing that like is shocking to me, and at the same time not, because they're my favorite band, but like you got 11 amazing songs. We all just got 11 amazing new songs. Like what the hell?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, like, I couldn't even begin to wonder what like the statistical probability was that a band that got together in 1990 is still making music in 2024. I mean, what a gift that is.
It beats the Grateful Dead probably at this point as original members go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, like the people that write this band off, they miss out on so much. And around when a lot of the the media outlets were reviewing this album, I think so many of them trumpeted this record as like a return to form for Pearl Jam. And I mean, I would argue that it's not a return to form. This is just the continuation of the form, and they've been in control of that form their entire career. Right. I don't think any decision that they've made on any album has been accidental. Like they've been completely intentional and completely, I think, true to themselves and where they're at. I mean, a lot of the people that like long for the days of 10, like you don't want 58-year-old Eddie Vedder writing about the same stuff as he was when he was in his 20s. Like just the same way, like you as a person, like your concerns are different, and it's like you just have to accept that like people grow. And I just wish that the detractors of this band at this point, like if they could get that out of their head, like they could connect with stuff that's you could connect with it as deeply as the stuff that you connected with right from the jump, 10 and verses.
I mean, I think there's plenty of arguments to be made that a bunch of these songs stand up to Porch and Black and whatever other songs you love on that record. Deep is my favorite song on that record, and like that's a deep cut,
right?
Dad pun intended. I mean, it's like there is no there's no argument to say that they're not relevant anymore after this record came out.
Yeah.
Period. I mean,
Yeah,
I
the
agree.
big, I would say the overarching, first listen, give it 2 days to rest, listen again. Like my thought is I feel really confident that just like the Foo Fighters, they released the album, but here we are. And I listened to it, I was like, this is really good, face value. And I'm like, I'm excited to see where it goes. And like, I just love that album. And I really think that this album is going to be like, yeah, one of my favorites. And the songs are just growing each time I listen to it. And I have no doubt that in a year, if we did the same podcast, we'll be much more confident, be like, yeah, this is, number 2 album on our list, or number, and the songs are going to move up a ton. And I think that this album has legs.
Yeah,
It's got legs, guys.
Yeah, we got a live one.
Let's do it in a year, man. I think we should, because there's
cool.
so many things that like even when you go back and you listen to Riot Act, that's not an album that I tend to like lean on and like put on immediately.
Yeah,
but I love it. There's a ton of great songs on that record that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
But I feel like this record is gonna be something that I spin in my house on vinyl.
It's one of those. It's so hard when new albums come out and people are like, "What are your opinions, Chris, Ethan, Mark?" And you're just like, you don't want to be too hard on them. You don't want to be too soft on them. You want to appeal to like people, but you don't want to just be like, just praise everything. So you need to let time pass. And then but I'm like really confident when time passes and dust settles and we can talk like ourselves, like the opinions will be the same, if not stronger. And we're just be like, yeah, this album rocked. We told you in the beginning. And because there's a real insight, and you had to walk on eggshells when talking about, Gigaton when it came out to find the stuff that you love. But this album has this aura behind it that I'm really confident that it's going to stick. And like you said, this band can, if they release albums like this, then for the next 20 years, they can do that.
Yeah, 100%.
And we'd all be happy.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt in my mind. I mean, I feel after this came out, I was so happy. Like you were talking about, Chris, I was like, there was a little bit of trepidation in terms of because I don't like watching. Actually, I did it today. That would be a lie if I said I don't watch trailers of movies. I had to watch the new Deadpool trailer. I had to.
Oh yeah.
Which it looks friggin' awesome too. But I purposefully did not read press. Because I was like, I don't want to have a preconceived notion of what young Mark wants to hear them say about it. I'm gonna derive my own opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
And had we done this at 10 o'clock last Tuesday, I would have been shitting hard on something special.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay too. I think it's it's like what I, from the Fish documentary where they're and if we have a bad show, people get on the internet and they talk about how it was a bad show. Yeah. And sometimes we got to hold our favorite musicians accountable in a way, but it's not our job to do that either. They're artists and they can do whatever the hell they want, and it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah. And from our perspective too, we've tried to be really intentional. We're not critics, we're not any smarter or more informed than anybody. We're just fans, and that's all you're ever gonna get from us. And yeah, it's always interesting. I had that same. I was like, how am I going to receive this? But kind of speaking to where this one sits, I agree with both of you. This one's going to stick around, and I'm excited to build experiences with this. Something else, it might have been the third time that I was listening through this. I had the thought in my head. I was like, maybe I didn't give some of their recent albums their proper due. They're still doing this. I should go back and listen to Backspace, or I should go back and listen to Gigaton and see maybe what I've missed. And, I think, great releases, they have the element and the ability to kind of open your eyes for things like that. So that's something that's kind of on my list to kind of reframe my thoughts, or at least give it another chance, knowing what they're certainly still capable of now, obviously.
Yeah. That would be a good experiment for you guys, is to actually go back and listen to Backspacer as a let's pretend I never heard it before,
right,
kind of thing, and sit with it for a couple days, because that's another divisive record in the catalog for a lot of fans too. But there's a lot, dude. I love Johnny Guitar. There's a lot of amazing songs on that record too that people don't pay attention to, unfortunately.
Right.
So what are you gonna do? But in my opinion, I feel like this record as a fan really did it for me overall.
Yeah.
Really did it for me.
Me too, without a doubt. And the first listen through, I loved it. And each subsequent time, I loved it even more. And then like I was getting so fired up yesterday, mid podcast recording with Ethan chatting about it. And the same thing's happening to me this last hour that we've been together. It's like, you know,
maybe I like it more than I thought.
Yeah, it's like you listen to it and you develop your relationship to the music through listening to it, but also through discussing it with people that are passionate about it. And that's my favorite thing that I'm lucky enough to be able to do in places like this and just chat about it. And like it's always fun, like we're having a conversation, like, and somebody mentions a song and like all 3 or 4 people are like, oh yeah, like I got something to say about that one. That one's great. And even songs that you might not like, if somebody shares like a different perspective or something that they noticed about it, it gets you to think about it in a different light. And it's just it's so fun. The one thing this album did, it reminded me how fun it is to be a music fan, and particularly to be a fan of this band. And it feels so good to recapture that and to have that be a present part of my life right now.
Yeah. Any final thoughts from you, Ethan?
Yeah, I was gonna say it seemed like yeah, it's like an emoji where it's like the band put their hand out and we all shook it and we're just like we're like, hell yeah, like here's this, and we're like, thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was ready to answer the call.
Like we were looking for an album, like, here you go. They're grateful to be playing and we're grateful to have it. And we're just like, the world is happy. You know what I mean? Like carry on. And so we're all pumped up about it, and that's really good.
Yeah, it made me feel like when I came home that night, I would have turned my amp. I would have rolled everything to 10, you know, had I come home and my whole family wasn't sleeping, because there's something about my relationship with this band. And that's why I have all these stupid amps and these guitars. It's the only reason. Mm-hmm. Had I not been in that one specific place at that one specific time, and my friend hadn't put that music on, I don't know what I would be doing right now.
That's and that weird. I have there's definitely bands like that I have that connection with, where it's just like, it doesn't matter time or place. I can put it on. And it just brings a smile to my face, like because of when they were cutting their teeth and getting it going, and you were there. And so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. Like, I mean, you can't ever tell me that this stuff doesn't matter. I mean, because like with me, like, if like Pearl Jam didn't exist, or like I didn't discover them when I did, like I wouldn't be the same person that I am today. I wouldn't have certain friends. Like I wouldn't have certainly had a lot of experiences, like how different life would be just because of the impact that this one band had. And obviously, Mark, as you said, I mean, to inspire you, and you've carried that with you to this day.
Yeah. 12 years old till now, whatever, or 11 years old till now. It's crazy, dude. Like if I ever got the chance to talk to any of those guys, you know, only thing I probably would say is thank you, because I have a whole life that has been beyond beautiful because of what you've given me. Like my love for music and my love for the instrument and my love to write music and all that stuff. And it's their fault.
Yeah.
You know, in a great way. So it's just, I don't know, man. I love that band. But hey, let me pop up. So everybody, you guys got to go listen to the podcast, the Grunge Bible podcast. And they got merch and stuff on this website. So go to grungebible.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts. I saw mugs, right?
We got some mugs. We got some beanies. The variant item, the socks. Nobody orders them, but we've got stickers too. Those are nice and fun. But yeah, that website has the links to our social media pages, the links to our merch, and also to where you can find our podcast. So that is the one-stop shop, as they say.
Cool. So go support these guys, do whatever you can to kind of keep them doing what they're doing, keep the lights on, keep the food in the bellies, whatever we got to do to keep them spreading the gospel about this amazing music. You guys, I don't have a lightning round get down, but I have a good joke for you. I wanted to tell you this joke.
Perfect.
I'm excited.
All right. So there's two gentlemen walking through the woods, deep in the woods. They're coming across like an open area, and they go up and there's a huge hole in the ground, and they look down and it's like deeper than they can see. So the one guy grabs this big boulder and throws it over the edge. Listening, and they're listening. 10 seconds go by. Whoa, that's a deep hole, man. And they hear a rustling in the bushes, and they turn around quick, and there's a bunch of stuff happening in the distance, and all these trees are moving. And all of a sudden, this goat comes screaming out from behind these trees, straight towards them, right between them, and down into the hole. And the guy's like, what the hell was that all about? And then they hear some more rustling. They turn around all scared. And there's a farmer walking through, and he's like, have you guys seen a goat around here? And they're like, I don't know. What did it look like? And he's like, well, he's got to be around here somewhere. I had him tied to this big boulder.
I love that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, help these guys out. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them. Go check out their website. Grungebible.com is the place you want to be to find all the goodies. Gentlemen, it's always fun hanging with you guys. Thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Thank you, as always, Mark. You're a legend, and we appreciate the call back to be on the show tonight.
Hell
yes,
yeah,
it was a really great way to spend the night, and stay heavy out there, everybody.
Oh,
heck yeah. Take care, y'all.
Awesome.
All right, we are out. Yeah.